Hey, soulmates, the conversation is cooking.
It sure is.
Yeah, we have plenty to talk with you.
And it's spicy.
Yes, it is. I want to welcome you to FOXSOUL's Black Report. We're following the latest on a lawsuit filed by Diddy regarding his liquor brands and raising awareness about allergies and asthma season with Dr. Renee. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordeline Corte. Plus what Michelle Obama says is messing up the children of today. And the famous actress who has her partners sign NDAs are the stories that impact our people.
We're going to bring you our news, our views, our voice. That's always the goal every day. So let's get started with our top conversation. In a tragic incident, a 14-year-old boy named Cyrus Carmack Belton was shot and killed by a South Carolina convenience store owner who suspected him of shoplifting. The owner, identified as Rick Chow, confronted the boy without any evidence of theft. Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott stated that the shooting was intentional and not accidental. Firearms account for nearly 19% of childhood deaths in the U.S., surpassing car accidents. According to the CDC, the shooting sparked protests for justice, followed by the looting and vandalism of the store. Chow has been arrested and charged with murder, while deputies guard the store to prevent further damage.
I just want to remind people what the sheriff said. He said he did not shoplift anything. We have no evidence that he stole anything whatsoever. That's not something that you shoot anybody over, much less a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
I think that sums it up.
Yeah.
I think that sums up exactly, how tight this case is, and we hope that justice is served. But this was a 58-year-old man who we'd like to think knew better. This young boy was running away, and he shot him in the back. And we've heard this story again and again and again, and so hopefully he is held accountable.
Yeah, well, it's clear based upon the press conference from about a day or so ago that authorities believe that these charges are appropriate, and now that these charges have been brought about, we'll just have to keep our eye on this case and see how it plays out, and it'll probably take a while for it to play out, and hopefully get the results that reflects justice for this family.
That's right. Well, moving along, a Virginia man, Rashid Ali Bynum, has been arrested in connection with the murder of New Jersey Councilwoman Eunice Dumfour. Police took Bynum into custody on Tuesday, charging him with first-degree murder. Dumfour, who served as Sayreville Borough Councilwoman and church leader, was fatally shot in her SUV outside her townhome. The arrest offers hope for healing and justice, as stated by New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin. Investigators discovered that Bynum had researched Sayreville and the church prior to the incident, and his phone records placed him in New Jersey at the time of the murder.
I remember this, when it hit the headlines, such a shocking case here, and it's good to see that authorities have followed through with this investigation, and that it has resulted in an arrest, and that this family and this community more than likely will receive justice. It was really a shocking case, kind of puzzling in a sense. You're trying to understand, the motive, and I'm sure a lot of those facts will come out as the case continues through the justice system. But it's good to see that they stayed with it, and now there's someone who's been arrested.
I think you're absolutely right.
All right. Darian Murray's mother, Nikayla, has filed a $5 million federal lawsuit over the shooting of her 11-year-old son by a police officer. This happened in Mississippi. The lawsuit accuses the city of Indianola, the police chief, multiple officers, including Greg Capers, of excessive force and negligence. Capers allegedly failed to assess the situation before firing his weapon. Mayor Ken Featherstone hopes for justice, but wants to review all the facts, including body cam footage. Darian suffered severe injuries, including a collapsed lung, fractured ribs, and a lacerated liver, but has since been released from the hospital. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday as well, and is on the road to recovery. However, the mental and emotional stress that this has caused this young boy is really heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, but it's good to know that the Indianola mayor is on the family side, at least seemingly, he said that he hasn't reviewed the body cam footage, but he is committed to quote unquote making everyone whole. And so I don't know if that means the full $5 million. He referenced that he knows that the city has insurance, but he knows that they don't have $5 million just sort of sitting around. And so hopefully there is some valiant attempt to make this family whole. But, who does that? Oftentimes we talk about police training. We need more training, right? So help me understand, what was it in the training that allowed for this police officer to fail to assess the situation before displaying and or discharging a firearm?
Or what was lacking in the training? And that's what it sounds like the mayor and other folks who are still taking a look at this case, are looking at, and I hope they continue to do just that. But my concern right now lies with the young man who was just on national TV saying that he still has visions of himself in a casket. Yeah. He still has physical pain in his chest area. When we just named off all of these injuries that he suffered. And even though he kind of looks okay when you kind of take a look at him, it's clear he's still suffering. He's still suffering physically and emotionally. And, with this lawsuit, hopefully this will come through for the mom and she'll be able to really take care of him holistically as long as he needs that type of care. Yeah. Indeed. All right, activists march in Akron to protest the grand jury's decision not to indict 8 officers involved in the fatal shooting of Jayland Walker. Speakers, including Jayland's mother, Pamela, expressed grief and called for accountability. Akron's presumptive next mayor, Shamaz Malik, urged systemic change in the police department. The Walker family's legal team demanded the release of grand jury proceedings and the enactment of Jayland's law to restrict police pursuits. Activists also pushed for a federal investigation into the practices of the Akron Police Department.
Hundreds of protesters, including local and national activists, recently marched in downtown Akron to protest a grand jury's decision last month not to indict 8 officers, 8, who fatally shot Jayland Walker, a 25-year-old black man, and might I add, 46 bullets, 94 times.
And although no indictments have been made, justice for Walker continues. Joining us now to discuss justice for Jayland Walker is Michael Blake, CEO of Atlas. Welcome back to the Black Report. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you both again. I came ready with my shirt and
we
tie.
We see this time. We see this time.
Well, let's get straight to business, Brother Blake. No indictments. What's the next step in the pursuit of justice for Jayland Walker?
Well, let's make sure we set the ground of how ridiculous this is, and your data conveyed this. A black man was pulled over for a broken taillight and alleged suspicious activity. The officers said they thought they heard and saw a gun shot occur. No one can indicate it actually came from the car that a fire occurred. And then you have 94 times they fired at him, 46 times it hits his body, and no support at all given to actually make sure that Jayland could actually survive. And irrationally, Akron Police Department and what we saw from the state and the Attorney General said they believe this was justified. Plain and simple, they believe anytime black folk are outside killing us is justified. And so, shout out to the leadership of the DiCello Levitt law firm and Bobby DiCello and Ken and Paige White and Joe Fouché and others, to Freedom Block with Reverend Raymond Green and others, Until Freedom, and supporting of this family and saying there'll be justice for Jayland. So to your question, letter was presented to Department of Justice saying that enough is enough. And so the next iteration is on June 27th. We'll have a national march in D.C. to say to DOJ, you have to take action. You have to demonstrate how are you giving justice to this family? Because too often, too many times, black folk, in particular, dark-skinned black men, we are afraid the second we leave our homes because injustice continues to occur and cops get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it appears as though, at least with this case, Soulmates, Black America, the awareness may be a little far and few between. That's why we're having this discussion right now, today. Why should we be paying even more attention to this? I mean, it's quite obviously, but for some of us who may not be aware of this case, just really spell it out for us, Michael.
Well, imagine the second you walk outside the house, you're in a car, you're pursued in that car. Someone then says they thought you might have shot at them. I always think that's important to continue to remind people. There has never been any proof by the cops that he actually shot towards them or any instance. And not only did they shoot him, again, you have 94 attempts, 46 times hitting his body, then they didn't even try to help him survive. And so if you think walking outside, you should be able to get back home alive, you should care about Jayland Walker. If you have a son, a godson, a nephew, or anyone that you care about in your life, you should care about Jayland Walker. And you should really ask yourself, how on earth can a police department believe that it was justified to do this? And so we want to give very concrete actions here. There needs to be transparency around grand jury transcripts, because we believe what we have heard and been indicated that erroneous and prejudicial information was given to make it harder for an indictment. We need to actually ask ourselves, why won't they release the names of the officers? They have not still actually done that because of they've conveyed, they said they're afraid of what would happen to the officers. Shouldn't we be more afraid of that you killed this young black man? And then taking it a step further, how do we actually make sure we address this notion that they continue to say about training? You have people that believed it was okay to kill this young man. That's not about training, that's about hatred in one's heart. And that is the reason why with Color of Change, with Until Freedom, with Freedom Block, with Reverend Mark Thompson, with the Cello Lovett, with all these different groups, on June 27th, we're asking everyone to be in Washington, D.C. to demand justice for Jayland Walker.
So speaking of what's happening on June 27th, where Jayland's family and so many of the folks you just mentioned are headed to D.C. to the Justice Department, not only do you think will that help the federal investigation get started, but what are you also doing to engage the black mayors across the country who are facing, similar challenges in their communities, right? And so what's your message to black mayors across the country where, what happened to Jayland could very well happen in their community if they don't use their voice, use their platform on June 27th to make their voices heard?
We have a responsibility as black folk to speak up. And for those of us that are current and or former elected officials, what's the purpose of having power if you're not going to use your voice? Dr. King always said, in the end, we remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So to our mayors, this upcoming weekend in Columbus, Ohio, the U.S. Conference of Mayors will be convening for their national meeting. Many of us will be there, myself included, to communicate that we have a responsibility to do more, especially when you think about what's happening in our major cities, that in New York and Chicago and LA and Houston, our 4 largest cities in this country, we have black mayors. And it's what are we doing around social justice? What are we also doing around health? You were talking earlier about allergies. There's going to be a heavy push around what are we doing to ban flavored menthol cigarettes, because too often our young kids have been targeted negatively and have unhealthy systems that are happening to them. It's what are we doing to make sure we create greater awareness in what's going on around these Supreme Court cases, around affirmative action and student loans, and bringing it back around to gun violence. You have a responsibility to do more. Absolutely. You have a responsibility to engage and tell your police commissioner that I expect that you will hold everyone accountable. Think about this going back to Akron. They don't even have a civilian patrol board like we do in New York City. So there's not even a strong way to actually go to voice your complaint and feel protected. And so to this weekend, several of us will be a part of this, vested strategies in particular. Shout out to Quentin and Stephanie, so that we could say to our black mayors and to our U.S. mayors across the country, we have a responsibility to make it back home alive. And that responsibility falls upon our mayors and elected officials.
Let me tell you something. The scope of your effort to protect and guide and direct and bring justice when it comes to the culture is unmatched.
That's right.
The last time we talked, it was about the Kentucky Derby, which was a much lighter affair. Right now, this is very heavy and something that we really have to focus in on. We appreciate your time. We will always have you back because what you're doing is really important when it comes to the culture.
And your continued advocacy inside and outside of elected office. We see you, Michael Blake, and we appreciate you.
With Atlas, we appreciate your time today.
Blessings. Good to see you. I'll see y'all very soon.
Absolutely.
God bless what you do for the culture.
Thank you. Absolutely. All right, so let's go to Miami right now, as the Miami Heat's surprising journey to the 2023 NBA Finals means that games will be played in a state where the NAACP has advised black people, maybe not to visit. Now, the advisory highlights Florida's anti-black policies and has raised concerns about the championship games being played there. NBA players, many of whom are black, have yet to publicly condemn Florida's politics, but competing under conditions deemed hostile by the NAACP prompts questions about their stance. The advisory was issued in response to policies advocated by Governor Ron DeSantis, including restrictions on diversity programs in educational institutions.
And just a reminder, DeSantis signed that bill prohibiting colleges and universities from spending money on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and initiatives. And you've got to believe this is on the minds of those NBA players. I mean, the NBA, has a lot of players that are particularly very social justice minded, right? Mm-hmm. And so, think about sort of the stress that this puts on them. They're preparing to play a game, they're competing to be champions, and they're going into an environment that they know has been hostile to black people. And so, this is an example of what black folks across the country in so many different industries have to contend with all the time. Yeah. We have to go places where we're not welcome and we're still expected to perform.
Well, I disagree with you just a little bit. I think winning a championship is what's on their minds. I think, unfortunately, they have to, play it in a state that we know has been a little funky when it comes to black folks. But I think they're focused on winning. I think folks who are going to attend this game, are focused on supporting, their teams respectfully. I just think that we have to find a balance between, staying aware of what's happening in Florida and still supporting residents, natives, businesses, organizations who are not in alignment with DeSantis's politics. And so hopefully we can separate the two and enjoy an NBA championship and go Heat.
We shall see. Still ahead, Diddy's headed to court over a liquor lawsuit.
Liquor lawsuit? Why he's taking the marketing team to court over his brands. That's coming up. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. We welcome you back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Former First Lady Michelle Obama discussed the impact of technology on mental health in a recent interview.
That's right. She expressed concern about young people's isolation and the negative effects of excessive technology use. Mrs. Obama called for setting healthy boundaries and emphasized the importance of parents modeling responsible behavior. She encouraged finding a balance and using technology to enhance real-life connections.
Yeah, Mrs. Obama shared her personal experience during the pandemic, highlighting the value of small tasks and the support of close relationships. And hopefully we all learned a helpful lesson during the pandemic. Listen, for me, when it comes to a younger generation who is kind of like born into the age of technology, who don't know anything other than, all that comes with the internet, I've always thought it was like system overload. You're kind of like overstimulated because you have access to so much information, and sometimes you don't know how to process it, which leads to sometimes these social media meltdowns across, different platforms. And so it kind of takes, you kind of have to task yourself with unplugging. I know it's hard to put your phone down, but maybe at 52 for me, I don't have a problem with it. Matter of fact, I just got all the stats that your phone will give you, and my time was down by, such and such percentage. And that's a thumbs up for me, because it tells me I just put that phone down and maybe paid more attention to other aspects of my life. We really have to unplug.
And it sounds like Mrs. Obama was making the same point in that April Ryan interview, and shout out to April Ryan for that really wonderful interview with Michelle Obama. She said, quotes, "If our kids see us glued to our phones, responding to texts at the dinner table or scrolling through our feeds on social media, whenever we have a down second, they're gonna see that kind of behavior as acceptable." And so I couldn't agree with her more. There's nothing more annoying to me than being at dinner with somebody and they are constantly looking in their phone, right? Nothing more annoying. You're not being present. You might as well take your phone to dinner.
Or taking selfies. It's like, girl, if you don't put that phone down.
Yeah. I mean, I know Mama Corte doesn't play.
No?
She does not like the cell phone at the table. And so, the time that we have with one another is precious, right? And so let's honor that, right? And more importantly, to our forever First Lady's point, let's model that as well.
Indeed.
Well, PetSmart is facing criticism for its LGBTQ-themed products, including clothes, toys, and accessories as a part of its You Are Loved collection. The company has been celebrating Pride since 2019, but recently, backlash on social media with calls for a boycott despite some negative reactions. Others defended PetSmart and praised its inclusivity efforts. In a statement, PetSmart's senior vice president emphasized the company's commitment to supporting the LGBTQ community and promoting inclusion and unconditional love. The controversy highlights ongoing debate surrounding LGBTQ representation and corporate support during Pride Month.
Yeah, it's kind of been a tricky way to go, if you will. Call up Target and see how things have been affecting them. When I read this, I wanted to ask you: do you? I get the support, but do you think at a pet store it's a little bit of pride overkill, maybe, or it's a pet store?
I don't think it's pride overkill, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You got to consider how this even happened. And according to the senior vice president, the employee resource group at PetSmart, the LGBTQ employees, got together and helped to come up with this campaign. And so you got to look at the genesis of how did this start. And this was one way that LGBTQ employees thought that PetSmart could promote products that would be of interest to allies and LGBTQ pet owners. And so, this is just an example of what it might look like for them to be an ally and for PetSmart to do their part.
So do they get their group of black employees together if they have some soulmates on the roster and get together and have a line for Black History Month for black pet owners?
I don't know.
That's my only. Is there balance there?
I don't.
For the Jewish holidays, I don't know. Whatever.
These companies have oftentimes lots of different employee resource groups. I don't know what the black employee resource group is, but let's also not assume that there aren't black people that are a part of this LGBTQ employee resource group. But, this is my big point here. Take that same energy for the people that are just all wound up about whether it's PetSmart or Target or Anheuser-Busch. Take that same energy and get leaders to ban assault weapons that are fueling the epidemic of gun violence in this country. Leave the drag queens alone, leave the book bans alone, leave the bans against Black history alone, and leave the rainbow chew toys alone. That's all I'm saying.
Rainbow chew toys.
Leave them alone.
On that note, we will move on, as they are telling us to do. Sean Diddy Combs has filed a lawsuit against Diego, accusing the spirits company of failing to invest as promised in his vodka and tequila brands and treating them as, quote, inferior urban products. The lawsuit claims that Diego limited distribution to urban neighborhoods and cited Combs' race and financial success as reasons for resentment. Combs alleges that while Diego portrays itself as diverse and inclusive, it falls short in practice. Diego, however, denies the allegations and characterizes the dispute as a business matter. Combs intends to seek billions of dollars in damages through additional legal proceedings.
Go Diddy go. Go Diddy go. I mean, look, how often have we reported on, a lot of hip hop moguls like Jay-Z, like P. Diddy, that have gotten into the wine and spirits industry. This is an industry where we have previously been shut out. And one of the things that Diddy said in this lawsuit, he says, quote, while Diego may conspicuously include images of black partners in advertising materials and press releases, its words only provide the illusion of inclusion, right? That's not just specific to this particular company, allegedly, or this industry. We see this all the time, where just because you put some black people in some ads, it doesn't mean that you're creating opportunity, for us to be owners, for us to, partake in the prosperity to be gained as owners and leaders in the industry.
Yeah, and this suit is kind of reminiscent of Jay-Z's fight with the folks who were distributing Douce. Jay-Z wanted to know what was up with the sales and certain records that he wanted access to, and they were, instead of saying, here you go, they were like, okay, we'll pay you. So something fishy's in the air. and we're looking forward to Diddy following all the way through with this one.
That's right. Well, Air New Zealand has announced a new policy of weighing passengers before boarding with the goal of balancing weight on international flights. Now, the Civil Aviation Authority of New Zealand approves of this move, which helps ensure accurate fuel calculations. Passengers' privacy is protected with anonymous data collection and the option to decline being weighed. Now, the program started on Monday and runs until July 2nd.
Be very, very, very careful. I think that's why they have the option of being, you can decline to be weighed, because they know that this could really blow up in their face as far as, legalities are concerned and PR is concerned. I just remember back in the day, I don't know how they assessed or determined, but usually if a passenger was healthy, and I say that with all respect, that I remember you having to purchase 2 seats in order to accommodate, and then they had the extender for you. So be very careful, New Zealand Airlines, because this can really blow up in their face and kind of be like a PR nightmare, because it could kind of come off as offensive.
It could be. I mean, I think the key is giving people an opportunity to opt in or opt out, right? And
that's key.
And this is like, lots of research that's done on a routine basis. Sometimes people call you telephone, hey, will you participate in this survey, right? You can opt in or opt out. And so, this is fundamentally, about keeping air passengers safe.
Yeah, but they've been doing that I remember being on airplanes, and sometimes when the airplane is light, the passengers are light, they have us move around so it balances out the weight. And it doesn't take you getting on no scale. I know how much I weigh, and I don't need anybody else telling me or airline showing me. So I just feel that there's other ways to go about it, because it's been being done. Anyway, coming up.
Okay, Air New Zealand, we see you.
Happy first of the month. So we know that May has wrapped up, but allergies and asthma awareness month, the effort behind it continues, because we're going into summertime, and you know how it gets. Yeah, man.
Yeah, when we return, we'll talk to Dr. Renee Matthews, who has some tips for folks battling allergies, and her new book to help teach children all about them. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Come on back. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, May was Allergy and Asthma Awareness Month, but the impact of these conditions doesn't just stop there. In fact, they remain relevant even in the summer months.
Yeah, especially in the summer months. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Dr. Renee Matthews, an expert in asthma and allergies. Dr. Renee, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And so let's just dive right on in. So first things first, can you explain the difference between allergies and just being sick? Because a lot of us get that confused.
Right. So being sick is usually a very short window, low fever, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, you have the sneezing and all that, but it's short window. A couple days and you feel better. Allergies, you realize that you feel like that every year around the same time, and it lasts for weeks and weeks and weeks of runny nose, no fever, but runny nose, itchy throat, itchy, just itching, might be your skin itching too, just all of that, watery eyes, itchy eyes. All those things.
So pay attention to duration.
Exactly.
And pay attention to fever. Those are the two distinctions.
Yep.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so you talked about some of the symptoms, some of the suffering that the soulmates have during this season, in particular summer. Today is like a low air quality day here in Detroit,
It's bad for
Michigan.
asthmatics to be out.
Yeah, so talk about some of the relief. I know some of us resort to the over-counter stuff. Some of us have it so bad that we have to actually go see a doctor. Talk a little bit about the relief.
So over-the-counter antihistamines are wonderful, but if you don't know what you're allergic to, I think you're just like throwing a dart into the air. So you want to see an allergist and find out exactly what are you allergic to. Your allergist will probably suggest allergy shots. I highly recommend them. I did them myself when I was a kid, and now I ran this morning outside. I saw the flying things, no sneezing.
On the low quality air day.
Exactly, and I was fine. And I stay outside actually in these months. You want to take a shower or bath as soon as you come in your house, because you need to wash all of those allergens off of your body. Take the clothes off, put them in a hamper, because if you bring them in the house, then you still all in your house.
Dealing with it,
because you've spread it all around. Try saline nasal sprays, humidifiers, excellent to sleep with, and Like I said, the over-the-counter meds, they are great,
Yeah.
but if you know what you're dealing with, they're even better.
And when we get a little extreme, I know I moved from one state to the next,
Yes.
and I just went ballistic. My body went ballistic, so I actually went and got a test. It was regular, and they put something on me, and I bumped all
Yep.
up, and so I found out that I had allergies that I never knew. But when I moved away, they went away.
And that happens sometimes. Sometimes it's the other
It's
way
so
around.
confusing.
Yeah, sometimes it's the other way around. You go places and you start, all of a sudden you never were sick and now
Yeah,
you're sick.
yeah.
So yeah, that can happen too.
So a change in atmosphere.
A change in atmosphere can definitely, and you know, even for asthmatics, I know a long time ago they recommended that they lived in Colorado, and and even though with the, you know, the altitude, I thought that was a bit odd, but I have a relative, that's what they did, and it was better for his asthma.
Yeah, so much information out
Yeah,
here. It's kind of
yeah.
hard to decipher through it.
I mean, we were talking, before the show about this sort of chronic laryngitis that I've had, right? And so I just thought, well, where did this come from?
Right.
Before I moved to Detroit, I'd never experienced anything like this. And you were saying, well, it could be an allergy. And so, I'll have to look into that. But Dr. Matthews, I got to ask you to share how you became an expert in asthma and allergies, of all things. I mean, you're just over here dropping gem after gem. Where did all this expertise come from? What drew you to
I was
it?
blessed with severe asthma and severe allergies. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing teal for food allergy awareness. I have severe food allergies. And I was, like I said, allergic to everything outside. My mom, thank you Jesus, was a respiratory therapist in the Detroit area. Most people do know her actually, Joyce Matthews. And she knew what to do. So she got with my allergist and they were like, this is what we're dealing with. And she said, you know what, she needs allergy shots. She said, you can even give them to her. I had allergy shots for like good 3 years, and that helped me tremendously. I think since I was 5, I wanted to be a doctor, but I knew I never wanted to be an allergist because it was boring to me because I had taken every drug known to man. I have had every test done, so it was boring to me. But when I became an adult and everyone was like, Renee, you need to write a book, you need to write a book. And so I said, okay. They were like, you know how to do this allergy and asthma thing. Write a book about that.
Study it and write a book.
Yeah.
And speaking of the books, you can tell it's successful because we have the hardcover and the soft cover. You start with the hard, and then when you transition to the soft, that means you have a successful sale here. Talk a little bit about we know of course what has inspired you, but talk a little bit why you're focusing in on the younger folks in particular.
So unfortunately, bullying is a huge thing, as we all know, but did you know that they are actually bullying kids with food allergies and throwing their food allergens at them?
That's awful.
Which is deadly. Like for me, I'm allergic to raw eggs. If you threw an egg at me and I couldn't get to my medicine quickly, I could stop breathing. Wow. So that was why I said if we could get the little kids to understand that food allergies is just, that's what Johnny has, just like you might have a stammer or something. If we could get them, then maybe we wouldn't have big kids that were bullies. So that's why I wrote it for the 4 to 8 year old, kind of before you get to kindergarten. The story is about me in kindergarten. So
has it been hard to sort of kind of get them to understand, asthma and the responsibility that comes with that? I know as a 4 and a 5 year old, you're in school, you want to run around just like your other friends, but you got this thing that you got to, maintain and not lose in order to stay healthy. Yeah.
So most kids, and that was what I recently was advocating about allergies and asthma. We don't have enough nurses in schools. So if your school doesn't have a nurse and your kid has to take meds, they can't go to the school because
oh wow.
Yeah, isn't that awful? So they don't usually carry it, but they have to go to the nurse. And most kids, like for me, I just understood that I'm going to start wheezing if I run for too much or something. So I think most of them pretty much kind of understand. Now it's trying to explain it to other kids. But if it's you probably understand.
So before we let you go, we have to ask you, why is allergy season particularly miserable this year? And what role does our environment play in our healing or our misery?
So remember that ozone layer thing?
Yeah, that big argument.
Right.
Okay.
So the global warming, unfortunately, is why we are so miserable. The pollen season is longer because the seasons have been longer. Pollen started earlier because of that as well. There's a really amazing thing on the allergyandasthmanetwork.org website. You can go hit weather index and you can put in your zip code and you'll find out all of this amazing information about the pollen index and allergy alert and asthma alert in your area, because it's important now.
And the flu index.
And the flu index, yes.
Cool.
But it's that's why. It's because of that global warming. So I guess if we continue to do things the way we're going to do them, we're going to have more and more people with allergies coming forward. But if we actually recycle and do the things that we're supposed to do,
we'll be in better shape.
We'll be in better shape.
Real quick, how can we link up with you, follow you across social media?
I am Ask Dr. Renee on all social media, AskDrRenee. And my website is AskDrRenee.info, because I'm a resource for information.
Yes, you are.
We're going to keep asking.
I know, and you are absolutely delightful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And these books are beautiful. I have my copies, and they're gorgeous. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Renee.
That's right.
Matthews, Ask Dr. Renee.
Up next, Raven Simone opens up about one of the most awkward parts of sex and fame.
Say what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we'll have that story and more when we return. Soulmates, you're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, dating a Hollywood star seems complicated and stressful, to say the least.
Yeah, and Raven Simone is sharing how she kept her personal life private. The former child actress was recently on the Howie Mandel Does Stuff podcast, and she shared with everyone how she dated and how you had to sign this non-disclosure agreement to prevent them from sharing about their relationship publicly.
That's right. She said even though the process was impersonal, she'd ask her romantic partners to sign the form, and shared that she even reluctantly asked her now wife to sign an NDA.
Oh, Raven Simone got her big break, of course, as the little girl on The Cosby Show. She went on to have her own incredibly popular Disney series, That's So Raven, and currently stars in the revival Raven's Home. But there's one Disney or guy that she dated, and they were all together in the Disney days. Orlando, maybe, I can't think, it slips my mind, but he's having some, mental breakdowns and issues across social media, and he's been running his mouth about their relationship.
Oh, really?
What is his name? Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I mean, look, she's not the first, certainly not the last person, not just in Hollywood, but, for folks that, have more than a few dollars, for folks that, are of note, it's not unusual that they have all sorts of folks sign NDAs. And so whether you're talking about romantic partners or you're talking about, family members, it's really about managing risk.
But do they really work?
And people forget that Raven Simone's got a lot of cheddar.
But do they really work? I mean, you've got one ex-boyfriend who's kind of running his mouth, and they say he's having, he has some, mental issues, and he runs his mouth. You've got people with phones and video. You've got friends of friends who maybe have been around, couples who still run their mouths. Do they really, really work?
Well, it seems like it's been working for her, because we haven't heard anything in the news about, any ex-partner,
but you have.
Speaking.
I'm talking about the one, I can't think of his name right now, but the one guy. So I think thank you. Is it Orlando Bloom? It comes out, I don't think it's Bloom.
Yeah.
It comes out, Brown, thank you. It comes out every now and again in some kind of way, whether, the person just says, I don't care what the consequences are, I'm going to have my say or have my piece. I mean, some of Tiger's business got out a little bit. If she's choosing to keep her mouth shut, but I mean, does it really work?
Yeah, well, you know.
Orlando Brown, that's it, thank you.
People are doing them. People are doing, she's obviously doing them for a reason. And like I said, there are a lot of people that do them. And so, whether or not people adhere to them or not, and whether or not folks actually call them on it. Like when they violate it, am I actually gonna go forward with, litigation? It's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But, Raven Simone said what she said. Moving along, Lizzo is firing back at body shaming trolls. In a series of tweets, the singer spoke out about becoming the target of increased fat-phobic and body shaming comments. The Grammy winner said that she felt like she couldn't get on the app without seeing hate, saying, quote, "It's really starting to make me hate the world." And in a subsequent tweet, she added, quote, "The love definitely does not outweigh the hate on social media." The singer has been transparent about the amount of body shaming she's received on social media, but she says it has increased in recent months.
I know how vital nowadays social media has become to, careers and, the whole idea of branding and ambassadors, and it's how information, it's how you learn, bloggers, it's really like the new news. It's like the source for all things, social, pop culture. But, you know, sometimes you might just have to take a break from it. Sometimes you might just have to pull up from it. You know, I think that Lizzo has established herself in a way in which if she just pulled up for a little while and just chilled and gave herself that break, she'd be okay.
Yeah,
she'd be okay.
I think you bring up a really good point around being conscious of our media diet and our media consumption. And, you know, like anything, sometimes you can have too much of a good thing, right? I mean, we were just reporting earlier on our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, you know, sort of talking about, you know, the potential harmful effects and some of the harmful habits, you know, that we sometimes model, you know, for the young people in our lives. And so, you know, that may be some sage advice to just kind of, you know, pull up a little bit, you know, because it's really easy to get caught up in the social media world and you think that that is the world.
Yeah, I was reading, you know, Erykah Badu does a silent fast, you know, every now and again, just that's a kind of a fast too. We often focus in on food, but just to be quiet. And when my husband leaves town, that TV, none of that stuff is on. And he thinks I'm crazy, but it's just, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
All right, a jury in favor of a toy maker in the copyright infringement lawsuit involving Atlanta rapper T.I. and wife Tiny. The couple was suing MGA, you might remember this, Entertainment, for $100 million. They claimed the maker of the LOL Surprise OMG dolls stole the name, likeness, and trade dress of the OMG dolls. Tiny founded the pop group back in 2009, 10 years before the OMG dolls hit the market.
Well, it didn't look like it worked out for them, but you know, it's a good idea. Good idea. Look, they tried. I would have
tried it too.
And we should have, and more artists should be, you know, just as vigilant patrolling their intellectual property, their likeness and their image. And so even though they lost this case, it's important that artists bring these sorts of cases forward because there's a lot of that going on. We've reported on, you know, AI powered technology that has, you know, taken the likeness and image of artists like The Weeknd and Drake, you know, and have created, you know, songs and pushed them out on the internet and have gotten a whole lot of streams and a whole lot of views that didn't translate into a whole lot of dollars for these artists. And so I don't blame, you know, T.I. and Tiny for,
I don't either.
For at least putting this case forward and challenging, you know, the folks that they alleged had taken their name and likeness.
Originality is scarce nowadays. I think we live in a copy and paste kind of society, especially when it comes to arts and entertainment. Everybody looks the same. Everybody's saying the same lyrics. Everybody's dressing the same. And so, yeah, I would have pushed the envelope on that too, because you know, OMG dolls and the other dolls, they looked quite similar in the likeness. I'm wondering what more of the facts were that they lost out on this. But yeah, definitely go for it. And they probably should file suit again. Why not? Why not?
Okay, Courtney Hicks, Esquire.
Why not? Let's do it again. Run it up.
Steph Curry's wife, Aisha Curry, is blasting Jada Pinkett Smith and her show, The Red Table Talk, for, quote, making her sound crazy. The mother of three opened up in a recent interview with Insider Magazine that she was disappointed with the final edit of her appearance on The Red Table Talk. She attended the taping with her family and spoke on issues around mental health, but says she wasn't happy with the product. This comes a month after Meta canceled the web-based show.
Yeah, I was going to say that episode ran a while ago. I mean, she didn't have really anything to say then. And I know we're in TV, so you know things get chopped up, edited up, and you know, twisted and turned around. And sometimes it doesn't come off the way we meant it, or it was edited in a way that kind of flipped the message. But Red Table Talk kind of started to be messy. And so before she agreed to be on there, so my thought was maybe to, you know, say, hey, I'll pass on this interview, because I think by the time she was on there, all of that Will Smith, August Alsina, whatever she was saying, entrapment, entanglement, all that had went down, and the Red Table had become real bloody, you know. So I don't know, maybe she should have just maybe bypassed that particular. And if she's on so many things and so many on magazine covers, all being interviewed all the time, maybe the Red Table. But I don't know. Do you say no to Will and Jada? I don't know.
Well,
Are there some consequences?
I heard
they run things in Hollywood.
When you're Steph and Ayesha Curry, you can say yes and no anytime you like. Look, I think whenever we're talking about mental health, whenever we're talking about our families, you want to be cautious about where you go to share those stories and who you decide to share those stories with. And so, it sounds like there's some regret in terms of sharing, some pretty personal stuff on that particular program, but keep your chin up, Ayesha and Steph Curry. We appreciate you, for being just so transparent about, what you all have not just gone through, but what you've overcome, and the inspiration that they serve all of us in terms of making sure we're on top of our health from the neck up and neck down.
All right, speaking of Curry, let's go from one basketball player to the other. Aaliyah Boston is the 21-year-old WNBA basketball star who is already breaking records and making history. It's only her rookie season, and she's already causing quite the commotion. She's the first player to start their WNBA career with 3 consecutive games out of 10 points or more and 60% or better shooting from the field. Boston was drafted #1 overall in the 2023 WNBA draft by the Indiana Fever. Big ups to her.
Well, we love to see it. I mean, look, I love the hair and I love the heart because, Homegirl plays with a lot of heart, and I also love the fact that we're giving the WNBA some shine. She's bringing a lot of shine to the WNBA, and so we'll be watching for Sister Brittany Griner, and we'll also be watching for this sister too.
I'm just glad that these talented young ladies now have somewhere to go. We talk about some of the amazing players from my generation. I'm in my early 50s who, if it wasn't overseas, after college, their careers were pretty much over. So I'm just happy to see the WNBA really surviving, and not just surviving, but thriving. And being a nice place to land, after college for some of these athletes. So it's good to see.
And in order to keep it going, we got to make sure, soulmates, that we keep our eyeballs on the WNBA. We got to tune in and support.
That's right.
Still ahead is our favorite part of the show, Black excellence, that is. And we'll introduce you to one black lawyer who's raising the bar.
He sure is. We'll tell you what he has done that has put him in a league of his own. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.
A mother-daughter duo is making history as they graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy.
Yeah, Elise Lindsay followed in the footsteps of her mother, retired Captain Tamika Lindsay. And together, they will go down in history as the first African-American duo to graduate from the United States Naval Academy in 177 years. Mom, Captain Tamika Lindsay, who served in the Navy for like 30 years, was one of the highest ranking African-American female captains before she retired. That was back in 2021.
Yeah, and Elise said that seeing life as a midshipman, living on the yard, and attending events all influenced her decision to follow in her mother's footsteps.
How proud is that family? Probably of one another, probably daughter proud of the mom. And now, the daughter has flipped and made this a career as well and graduated from the Naval Academy, which I'm sure is pretty rare as far as, black cadets, period, but in particular for females, and this is a great feat.
And I know at least one black Naval Academy grad that is super proud of this. My brother.
Oh.
Yeah, my brother John Quay graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy, and
when did he come out?
1996.
That means
Bill Clinton was president.
Part of my generation.
He is.
Love him.
Yeah, he's nipping at your heels.
And how many, did he have a lot of black classmates?
I don't remember a lot of black classmates in his class.
Right.
I'm thinking back to his graduation. And, I think this is terrific. We need to see more of this, more women following in the steps of their moms at the Naval Academy, more women not just speaking at West Point for their commencement, but going to West Point, and more belonging in the military for men and women.
Speaking of more, a young law student from Baltimore shatters the bar exam with a record-breaking score.
That's right. Not only did Matthew Graham pass the bar exam on his first attempt, he also scored an impressive 309 out of 400. The video of his heartfelt reaction has gone viral and caught the attention of the national media. Graham faced many challenges during his journey to becoming a lawyer, having to balance a full-time job, being a new husband and father, and his studies, but used it as motivation to push through.
I saw that he jumped and ran all around the house. There's the new baby and wife right there. I think that's his dad over there as well. Graham walked across the stage at the University of Baltimore School of Law, ranked 7th in his class with an outstanding 3.6 GPA, and I call this magna cum lately honors.
I like it. Did you just come up with that?
No, I always say that because I could never pronounce it correctly. So I said magna cum lately honors. No, magna cum laude.
That's right.
Is that it?
That's
yeah,
right.
that is an amazing story.
That's
309 out of 400. Whoa! He's ready to practice today. I'd call him to represent anything for me today, right now.
That's right.
That's
right.
good stuff.
That's incredible. That's great, and it's an example of what it looks like when we raise the bar. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For the full rundown on today's stories and more, you can access Fox Soul's video on demand on any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other Black-centered content. And don't forget to download the Fox Soul app. It is absolutely free. You can catch up on all the past episodes as we enter into a brand new month. Can you believe it? June 1st?
That's right. And happy Pride Month to everybody that is watching, and all of our soulmates that are a part of the community, all the folks that are allies of our community. You know, this is a month to step it up.
Yeah.
To step it up. You know, we celebrate Pride year round, but you know, we step it up in the month of June.
Yeah, but you know, so you're still dealing with a lot of controversies. Just before we came down, I caught a story about the Secretary of the Defense Department banning, if you will, or not allowing drag shows on certain sites, if you will, and how much of a controversy is that? And has that been supported by the defense, or was that something that the individual sites put on? And so as we enter into this month, you all are dealing with so much. So hopefully you can kind of rise above it and have some days of celebration without all the heavy controversy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we're going to work on that. We're going to work on that. Love that Dr. Renee.
Yeah,
she's
she was fantastic. Yeah, we'll have to keep in touch with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching today. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. On behalf of the entire team here at Fox Soul's Black Report, stay lifted.
Stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow.